Beagle is far from well trained, is breaking into the fridge, snooping through the garbage, constantly jumping up and sniffing the countertop. After 8 years, there's a lot of habits there that are probably formed solid. You can change them, but in order to change them, it takes an immense amount of consistency with whatever the habit is that you're looking to form. We need to slowly and gradually increase layers of distraction. And so when they get very good by themselves, you can start to introduce them. Now, she's gotten so good at it by herself, it's when she gets around other dogs that all of a sudden the wheels come off. I make a lot of mistakes, and so do my dogs, and that's okay. I've come to realize, you know what? Not only is that okay, I think that's normal. And I don't believe for a second that when the camera turns off, that stuff doesn't happen to everybody else as well. Okay, welcome back. This is podcast episode 66. Got a little partner with me here today. Lillian's hanging out, drinking a bottle on my lap, so if you hear a little bit of squeaking going on, that's what that's behind. It's not Ben. I think sometimes we think it's Ben crying, but it's not always. We are going to start out today. We're coming off of a back-to-backer. We did one yesterday, right? And you got it live today already. So we're going to crank another one out. We are going live tonight. It'll be past this when you listen to it, but we're going live on the Michigan Buck Poll. Another opportunity for us to try to share as much information as possible. That is our mission right now within the quarantine / sheltering at home, safers at home, all that stuff. So the more we can provide, the better off I think we are as far as accomplishing that mission. So we're going to go to this is a Facebook question that came in. I picked it because we had about 3 or 4 of them, I think 3 of them in the last week or 2 that are along these lines. A little bit of variation on all of them. I didn't dig up the other ones, but I'm going to read you the one. I remember some of the differences, specific differences in some of the other questions. But let me get started here. It says, "Good afternoon. Let me start by saying thanks for the previous advice." So to give you an idea, we had started messaging back in October of 19, I guess, and I guess I didn't even look back on this. So we went back and forth on several different messages, but this latest one, and I'm looking back now on it real quick, and some of it was intro to gunfire. There was lots of different things we went back and forth on. This latest message said, "Thanks for the previous advice. I've been working my butt off with her, and she's come a long way. I've since been able to place train very reliably. I use the word spot as my command instead, which it doesn't matter. As long as you're consistent, you use whatever word you want. It says, I'm currently working on bettering her heel work, and the lead helps a bunch." So he must have got an adjustable leader from us. It says, "My question is regarding adding another dog into the equation. My girlfriend is staying over quite frequently, and she has an 8-year-old beagle. The beagle is far from well trained and is extremely food driven, breaking into the fridge, snooping through the garbage, constantly jumping up and sniffing the countertops. I'm worried that all the obedience work with my dog will be quickly lost. My girlfriend has given me permission to try to correct the beagle's behavior, but I have no idea where to start other than keeping the house clean and tamper-proof. She will still be on constant jumping prowl for food. Where does one start with an older dog?" So it's a great question. I bring it up because so that has to do with the influence of another dog. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I had another question that there was going to be 2 dogs. They're going to be spread out by several months, 6-7 months in between them. So the question was regarding, is that a good idea, bad idea? So we'll talk on that a little bit. Had another one where there was 2 little dogs that were like little lap type dogs and a puppy, and the 2 lap type dogs had no training and they just didn't ask anything of them. And you see, and not to say that you can't train little lap dogs, because you certainly can, but I do think they're more commonly seen to kind of get away with whatever they want because they're cute, and they can only create so much damage as far as getting, knocking. They're not going to knock you over if they jump up on you. I see it all the time where little ones, they're encouraged to climb up onto their owners. You can get away with it with a little dog because they're little. If it were a big dog, it would knock you over. So it just obviously would be unacceptable. So I do think that sometimes we look at little dogs and say, well, they're different than big dogs. They are, just in size. I mean, there's no reason. I personally, if I had a little teacup type dog, I wouldn't allow them to get away with murder. That's just me personally. Some people are okay with their big dogs getting away with murder too. So it's all based on what makes you happy. And that comes back to training, and that comes back to being a dog owner, and that comes back to living life. Like, you got to do what makes you happy. I'm not here to tell you what should or shouldn't make you happy, and I'm not telling you how you should or shouldn't do things. My goal is to try to share with you how we do things, and if you want to try it that way and think that it is a good fit for you, then great. If not, scroll somewhere else. You can listen to different podcasts, and so I think that there's a lot of options out there. So let's talk specifically on this one to start out with. So my answer to the idea of where do you start with an older dog. So first off, I think it's great that she is willing and you are thinking the part of the fix to this problem or potential problem that could create more issues is to work on the old dog. I think a lot of times people think that it's a lost cause at a certain point age-wise and you're just not going to change. I don't think that. I do think that you have to recognize and realize that after 8 years, there's a lot of habits there that are probably formed solid. And you can change them, but in order to change them, it takes an immense amount of consistency with whatever the habit is that you're looking to form. So, he said, where do you start with why does one start with an older dog? In the beginning. That's the answer. And so it's no different than where do you start with a puppy. You start in the beginning. I really don't care what the age is. I do think that with an older dog, there's probably going to be some good things there. It can't be all bad. And so I think what you got to do is you assess what is good and desirable, and you use that to your advantage, and you recognize that. But then you got to look at the things that are standing out, that are creating issues or problems, and that's the stuff you really have to focus on. We can't just spend our time doing what makes us feel good. A lot of times we want to train the stuff that the dog does well. We work on that because they do it well and it makes us feel good, and then we avoid the things that they don't do well because that gets uncomfortable. It's a lot easier to not work on the stuff that's hard. It's a lot easier to do the easy stuff. So I think we have to recognize that and then be okay with the idea of, this is going to make my job a little bit harder. It's going to be a little more difficult. I'm probably going to need more patience, and accept that. And then you start in on it. So when you got this older dog, I think the things that are standing out are, first off, there's a lot of freedom, it sounds like, with this beagle. If the dog can wander through the house, dig into the fridge, the garbage, the countertops, it's real clear to me, there's just too much freedom for the dog because the dog is making really bad decisions. And the reason that they're making those bad decisions is, first off, they have the ability to make them. So now, here's where the challenge lies. You want to let her out. We got Bella getting a little antsy on her bed behind us, so we have to recognize that. We're gonna let her out, and then just watch her bend. And when she goes to the bathroom, then bring her back in. So we're gonna do a little bathroom break here. And so we're juggling stuff. We got dogs on beds laying around here. I've got a baby laying in my arm, sucking on some almond milk. We go through the same stuff. I think sometimes people think that our lives, training wise and otherwise, are just like silky smooth and we've got it all figured out, and that's why we're able to do it. We deal with weird stuff too. So it's being able to and willing to adjust. So anyway, back to this dog. I think we need to I would look at 8 years old, the dog has free reign, it sounds like. Jumping up on the countertop to me would be like a kid vandalizing your house. If you're okay with it, they're going to do it. If you haven't given them guidance, they might find themselves doing that. If they've hung out with the wrong crowd, they may end up doing that. Now that's the risk you run into with your new dog that you're training. I don't want them hanging around with those kids. So I do think there is cause for concern. Hey, you're good. I do think there is cause for concern there. I think it's very easy to take away that ability, and it goes back to, oh boy, it goes back to the idea that we need to minimize the opportunities for the dog to get into trouble. And so crates and kennels are how I do that. You know, now I don't use it as punishment. My dogs go into their crates and kennels pretty willingly. Now, I don't know if this dog even knows what a crate is. Starting out to put a dog in a crate at 8 years old could be a bit of a struggle. So maybe it's minimizing the rooms that they can run through. Maybe it's taking away some of the freedom. You got to remember, it sounds like this is your house, Pete. Your girlfriend's bringing the dog over to your house. So I don't think personally that it's out of line to say, yeah, I really like it when you guys come over and you bring the beagle, but here's the rules of the house, and we're going to have to follow some of them. And so the new dog is learning that, as well as the beagle, because the beagle's the new dog. The beagle's the new dog in this house. Pete, that's a question for you. Do you have the ability to pull that off with your girlfriend? I don't have the answer to that. I could see it going both ways. I could see someone saying, absolutely not, it's not going to happen. Well, then I think you have to make a decision. It's back to you, and you go, are you okay with that dog doing stuff that you don't want it in your house? You're right on the idea of it starts with picking stuff up. You can leave it, Ben. Let's just see how she does. Let's pick stuff up and minimize what the dog can get a hold of. That probably will help. The second part about this is, you know, it goes back to, oh boy, she doesn't want to be down there. I think what it takes is the understanding that if you start changing things with the old dog, hey, you're good. If you start changing things with the old dog, it's going to require 100% change. You can't kind of ease your way into change with a dog. If you're going to say, no more jumping on the counter to get food. And I don't think I would tackle everything at once. I think I'd start tackling a few things at a time. Behavior-wise, I'd start curbing the things that are really creating an issue. It says here, snooping through the garbage, constantly jumping on and sniffing the counters. So I don't know how the dog's getting up on the counters, but if the dog's getting up on the counters by climbing onto something, move that so it can't get up there. Snooping through the garbage is an easy fix. We either put the garbage up or we close it into a cabinet of some sort. We do something where the dog can't get at the garbage. Far from well-trained and extremely food-driven. Doesn't sound like food-driven. It sounds like just hungry and looking to get into stuff. Again, I'm rereading this and I'm reading it and I'm going, you gotta take away the opportunity for the dog to make these mistakes. And so it's your setup. I also think there needs to be some rules put in place. And those are gonna be that's gonna be the hard part for Pete. How much, if you can't go partial rules. You can't go partially asking, hey, do you want to do this podcast? Sounds like she does. Let me give you the whistle. Give me a second here. We're going to see if we can give her something that'll keep her happy. So I'm going to give her my dog whistle. Now, when it comes to your dog, and I'm going to scroll back up and find out here, how old is your dog? I'm going back up to old questions. You've got it here back in October. You had a 19-month-old Springer Spaniel. So I'm assuming that that's the dog you've got. So that was in October, November, December, January, February, March. You're 5 months. You got a 2-year-old dog. So now I go back, Pete, and I ask, you know, foundationally at 2 years old, where are you at with that dog? I would hope and assume that you're probably got a decent foundation built. And so if that's the case, you're in better shape than having to start over or start from the beginning with a new puppy. Because if you're starting at the beginning from the new puppy, you'll have your hands full. And then you start really starting in the beginning with this 8-year-old beagle, which might prove to be a little bit of hands full. So you got 2 to start in the beginning. Right now you're lucky. I bet you've got one that's doing pretty well if you've been putting some stuff into it. And then you've got one that comes in and goes, is this one going to influence and take away from what you've gained? That, I think, is also in your control, because I think with this 2-year-old Springer, you may have to, for a while, until you're able to get things kind of set up and clicking with this beagle, you may end up having to take that Springer and you might put the dog away for periods of time. You might take that dog and you might say, Beagle here, Snoopy's getting into stuff. So my Springer, you're going to go into the kennel. I'm going to work on focusing on one dog, not the other. And so that brings us to kind of this question. So Pete, that's what I'm recommending. I do think you can do it. I think there's going to be some hard decisions, and the hardest decisions might have to do with the girlfriend. Not whether or not to keep her, but whether or not you can get her convinced to the rules of the house, new rules of the house. I wish I had easy answers for all you guys of just do this or that or this. It's pretty simple. Some of the questions that are asked have they're easy answers, they're difficult to execute. And this one might be one of those. Now, got another question that had 2 dogs and 2 puppies, and they're going to be about 6 months apart. And we're talking puppies now, little puppies. How is that going to go? And I will say this, I think it's something that creates a lot more work. It's harder. We do puppies all the time. We've done puppies all the time over the years together. It is way more work because both of them have to be handled separately. This is a little bit different story because both of these puppies don't have anything yet. The nice part is they probably don't have a lot of bad stuff either. So what it takes with raising 2 pups simultaneously is separating and training. You have to handle them individually. It's just like Bella right now. We worked Bella in a group the last week or 2. Mm-hmm. We've been working her in a group with my older dogs, and the reason is because she's gotten so good at it by herself. It's when she gets around other dogs that all of a sudden the wheels come off. And if you don't work around other dogs and replicate the training and get her to be good around them, she started out not that good at it by herself. And then we worked on it, and she got pretty good at it. Now we're talking about adding another dog in, which adds excitement and distraction. And she has problems focusing through it, and the wheels come off, and all of a sudden I go, wow, we got to start back over. Kind of. It's just we need to slowly and gradually increase layers of distraction. And so when they get very good by themselves, you can start to introduce them. Now Bella turned a year this weekend, and I'm now getting her into working in groups. I'm focusing on growing that exposure because it took me that long to get her to the point where I felt pretty good about her being by herself. Now, we are not anywhere near being done, and we're going to do a lot more by herself because a lot of the stuff we need to do by herself is new. I can't introduce something new to Bella when she's with a group. I need all my focus to be on her and her focus to be on me. The idea of working with a group is doing things that she's already doing by herself and understands, and now it's adding other dogs into it. So with someone that's going to look at 2 puppies, you need to do all that stuff by themselves first, and then probably with an older dog that's a little more further along maturity-wise and understanding concepts and able to be held and respectfully trusted and under control. You need that before you ever think about putting another puppy in the picture. So, someone here, go check the front. Got my guard dogs letting me know that somebody's easy. Ellie. Nobody? Ellie, enough. So that's that. You hear this in the background. I get asked that a lot. My dog barks at strangers. I have a dog that Ellie is very protective, especially of the house, especially when the kids are here, when Steph is here in particular. They let us know when someone's here. Now, what I do, and I don't mind that. What I do mind is if the dog doesn't stop when I tell it that's enough. I got to let them know that I get it, I understand, I'm checking this out, and now that's enough. So that's something that you just got to hear us live. And so she settles back down and, hey, easy. So that's kind of so we just touched on the idea of training 2 puppies together. Now, the other question was similar to this in that they had 2 little, and we talked about that too in the beginning. We talked about these two little like lap dog type dogs. So I think personally, I'm a believer in we should be consistent with our rules. I think sometimes we get into trouble because we have a different set of rules for different people. One kid in my house can't do one thing and the other kid's not allowed to. That won't work. So I got to be consistent with my rules with these. Will you put a little milk in there, Ben? Yep. So we need to be consistent. This podcast is really going awesome right now. I've got so many things going on. It is creating a little bit of an issue. But now we're going to regroup. Ben's going to put a little milk in that cup. We're going to see if this little tired thing will take it and not fuss. She's been throwing my phone around the whole time. I just can't find something to give her what she wants. Now, if this was a dog training session, I'd probably look at it and go, okay, let's keep our cool and patience, and let's find something to figure out a good way to get through it. And then I'd probably end it. So a lot of times, my sessions don't go as well as I hope. Today, this podcast didn't quite go exactly how we hoped. Bella's getting antsy, had to go to the bathroom. Did she go when you let her out? So she had to go. So she's telling me that. She's getting up, she's circling, she's fussing, she won't settle in. And I'm going, dog probably has to go to the bathroom. So Ben, luckily, is here. He can let her out. I'm juggling a toddler or whatever you call these things on my lap. She's fussing with milk. She wants to play with the phone. I got dogs growling because they're hearing the wind outside and thinking somebody's coming. All these things are going on. Well, that's a lot of times I get into a training session with a dog and things just aren't going exactly how I planned them. And what we need to be careful of, and I was borderline on it right there. When she's fussing, I'm going, my blood pressure's going up. But I had to recognize and realize and go, you know what? Take a deep breath, count to 3. I got into this thing where I go 1, 1,002, 1,003. By the time I say 1,003, if I'm still pissed, we might see some action. But if I can't calm myself down in that 3 seconds and recognize there's no reason for me to get angry about it, it's not going to resolve anything. Now, I'm not perfect. I'm not able to do that all the time. Sometimes I just respond. Not proud of it, but I'm human. And so I do it a lot more where I'm able to kind of compose myself, regroup, get the baby a bottle of milk, settle down a little bit, realize that, hey, it's only a 22-minute point right now. So it's not like let's find something to end it positively. Let's control the situation, and then we'll get out of the session. That's how we do it. And now you're giggling because you think it's funny. Oh, you're so funny. And I look at it and I go, okay, now we got to win. We got dog settled down over there. Bella went to the bathroom. She's laying down. Ben, he's settled down. I had him wound up here earlier. The baby's laughing and giggling a little bit with her bottle, and I go, you know what? It's probably enough. It's probably enough. Let's not push this any further. Although things are going good now. If things start all of a sudden going good and we want to go a little bit further, no, let's just salvage what we've got here. So you get yourself a short little podcast, a 20-minute podcast here today, but we're giving you something. And maybe the value out of it is the topic, which was, hey, training multiple dogs together and how to handle some scenarios that way. Maybe the topic is how to get out of a poor situation, a session that just didn't go as planned. And we deal with it. And we recognize and realize it's not always perfect. I can't tell you how many times I watch. I do follow some other dog pages. I follow dog trainers. I gain a lot from that. I don't always apply it exactly, but I gain a lot, and I've got a ton of respect for those that are willing to share it. I just think that that's a gift that people. I'm really grateful that people are willing to share it. I do get a little concerned at times because it is like I get a little self-conscious and I go, man, nobody has issues like me. Everybody's, it's always smooth. Their dogs are always good. They always do everything right. I think to myself, I don't know that I could hang with that group because I make a lot of mistakes, and so do my dogs. And well, that's okay. I've come to realize, you know what? Not only is that okay, I think that's normal. And I don't believe for a second that it doesn't happen when the camera goes when the camera turns off. That stuff doesn't happen to everybody else as well. I know it happens. I know it does. And I don't have an issue with it. I want to share that with you. So it's a riskier way of doing it. It's a way that, a lot of people are going to look at us and go, I can't believe he did that. Why didn't he see that coming? Well, I don't see everything. I thought she was going to be a lot better, didn't you?
Yeah. She
was damn near sleeping when we were starting this podcast.
You said before we started, I think she's just going to...
I think she'll fall asleep. Let's do one, Ben. And next thing you know, she's standing up and right now about to tear down the camera. So you just don't... It's real life. It happens. It's okay. And I think you guys got to hear that. And I think you got to see that. Because if you got it perfect... I think you should do a podcast. I think you should do videos, and I'll follow you because I think I can learn from that. But I just don't know that it's realistic to say that it always goes good. And so our message and our mission is to show you how much crap I can get going, how many mistakes I can make, but I say that kind of jokingly, but I'm not. It is realistic, and so I don't have an issue with it. My pride is long been broken down to the point of, you know what, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with us not doing everything right and perfect, and it always looks great. And so that's it. Good podcast. We make good podcasts out of crappy podcasts, and that's the value of what Ben can bring to this organization. So that's it. We sign off, number 66. We're gonna be doing another one. We'll be cranking out a few, and then we're going to go do that Michigan buck pull, and then I got a couple other things that we're working on that we'll be announcing soon. So Lillian says goodbye, and so do I.